What's up, brother?
I have a question from earlier. You were having a conversation about abortion.
Yeah, yes.
Well, I'm a Trinitarian. I'm a Christian. You know, I sin like all of us. But
we all do, yeah.
What I don't understand about abortion is Jesus never forced his religion on anybody. So I just don't see why I should have to force my religion and my beliefs on people. I
don't understand what you're saying. What's that got to do with abortion?
I'm pro-choice. You know,
then you're anti-Bible.
I'm not pro. I don't believe people should have abortions, but I understand why. I feel like a lot of people that are.
Why do you understand it?
I just think a lot of pro-life people are hypocrites.
But you're a hypocrite too, and you're pro-choice. So you just condemn pro-choice because you're a hypocrite.
I'm not trying to condemn anybody. I'm trying to understand.
You're not listening. Listen. I'm trying to explain to you if you don't get it.
Okay. Sorry.
If your grounds for being pro-choice is because pro-lifers are hypocrites, are you a hypocrite?
I try not to be.
No, but I don't care if you try not to be. Are you a hypocrite?
I don't think so. No.
Let me talk to Butch for a minute. Hold on, let's talk to Butch again.
No. I don't need to.
Okay, do you know pro-choicers who are hypocrites?
I do.
Okay, so now notice, be consistent. You're condemning pro-lifers because they're hypocrites, but you just said, pro-choicers who are hypocrites. So why don't you condemn pro-choice? Be consistent.
I do. That's why I'm trying to talk to you and trying to understand, Sam.
Yeah, but I'm helping you reason out if you follow me. Your argument against pro-life is inconsistent. If they're hypocrites and somehow that means you're against pro-life, then be against pro-choice because they're hypocrites among them as well. That's what I'm trying to show you, the first step.
Okay.
So I think it's not a good argument to be pro-choice and against pro-life because there are hypocritical pro-lifers, because there are hypocritical pro-choicers, so condemn it both. So then what are you?
Okay, I just don't want to be a hypocrite myself,
Yeah, but they're hypocrites on both camps. So why aren't you neither?
I agree.
Neither.
I agree 100%.
So why aren't you neither?
I guess I am neither. I mean, I just feel that we should have the freedom to do as we please. You know what I mean?
Okay, so where do you put a limit freedom? So if a man wants to marry his mother and says, that's my free choice, I want to commit incest, will you then fight for legislation for that?
No.
No, you're inconsistent. Why?
I mean, if they want to marry their mother, that's up to them. They have to answer to God. I don't have to answer to God.
But would you fight for their right? Would you fight for legislation to give them that right?
What do you mean fight for it?
In other words, would you be on their side to get legislators to legislate incest?
No, I'm not going to sign a bill or sign anything
Why not?
that says...
You're doing that with pro-choice, though. Why are you inconsistent?
No. What's that?
Why are you inconsistent? Would you join pro-lifes to get legislators to condemn abortion? Or do you say, no, they have a right to abort, even though I don't agree with it? If you say yes, then why don't you do that for incest?
Well, I don't sign anything that, I don't really vote. This last time I voted, just because I didn't like who was in office.
What did you vote? Did you vote for pro-choicers?
I voted for Biden, yes.
Yeah, see, there you go. There you go. So, and you think that you're doing God a favor, somehow you're spiritual, when you're going to answer to God for the choices you make, even legally. So let me repeat the question again, because you did vote for a pro-choicer, someone who's also for transgenderism. If you can be used of God to work within the legal system to legislate according to God's will, shame on you if you don't, and God's judgment will be upon you. I'm not saying you go put a gun to someone and saying you better believe, but if the system allows you to vote for people who will legislate in a manner that pleases God and you didn't, God's wrath be upon you.
And that's why I have a hard time voting for either side. I didn't, you know what I mean?
But you still went ahead and voted for Biden. Why did you vote then?
Just because I didn't like the way Trump was taking this country.
So you don't like the way Trump is taking the country, but you are okay with Biden taking the country to transgenderism, pro-homosexuality, silencing traditional conservative Christians, and giving a platform for a transgender dude who thinks he's a woman to be part of his office, and you're okay with that. Wow, man.
No. What I'm okay is if he wants to do his thing, he or she wants to do his thing. When they die, they have to answer to God.
So why didn't you then vote for Trump and let Trump do his thing?
Because a lot of the programs Trump was saying, like all these pro-lifers are okay with when the baby's in the womb, but once it's out of the womb, they want to take away all these programs that would help these babies, that would help these children that would grow up.
So let me guess. So it's better to murder the child.
No, I'm not saying that.
No, brother, you're listen to yourself. You didn't want to vote for Trump, though he's pro-life, because once a child is born, take away programs to make it hard for that child and his upbringing. So let me then vote for someone who's okay for terminating the life in the womb. Yeah, okay. That's consistent.
It's not, and this is why I struggle. This is why I'm calling you right now, to try to understand. You know, I like I said, all the programs that the right wants to take away from these kids when they're born.
Okay, like what rights do they want to take away from the kids? Explain it to me.
They want to take away welfare, food stamps, housing. You know.
Let's go with that. Let's go with that. Okay, let's agree with you. Let's now take that into consideration. How has welfare? Because I've been raised in the city. I've seen what welfare does. How has welfare helped these children get out of the welfare system and get set on their feet and become independent, as opposed to being a means by which to handicap them and enslave them to a system where they feel entitled to all these benefits, producing, in many cases, not always, I'm not generalizing, people who know, since welfare will take care of them, what's the point of going and trying to get on my feet and become independent so I can break away from the system?
Well, I grew up on welfare. My mom was on welfare. My dad was in prison my whole life.
Yes. Well, your mom you're given an exception, right? Did you get out of the welfare system?
Yeah, I'm not on it. I'm not any.
Okay, how many of the people that you grew up with are off the welfare system?
Most of the kids I grew up with were on welfare. You know,
where are they now?
None of them are. What's that?
Where are they now?
They all have jobs and houses and all that stuff, just like me.
Okay, so percentage-wise, of all the people on the welfare system that you know, how many of them broke out of that system and became independent and financially well off and responsible?
Roughly, like
percentage-wise,
85%, I would say. I know it's not all of them.
You'd probably be smoking. No, that's not true.
The people that I know.
No, I didn't say what you said. I said percentage-wise. Percentage-wise in America, how many people on the welfare system have broken off the system and become independent and financially stable so they don't depend on the government anymore?
I have no clue. I don't know.
Yeah, it actually, if you look at it, it is alarmingly low. So this system doesn't help. It creates an environment where you enslave people to a system, and that becomes a pattern generation after generation. Because if welfare worked, how do you explain these ghettos and inner city problems that you face all over the country, such as Chicago? Because it does not work. Yes, when people legitimately need help, of course you step in to help. But to perpetuate a system that only reproduces people who are enslaved to the system and do not break off the system, you're only contributing to chaos and decay. You're not solving the disease. You're only prolonging the disease generation after generation after generation.
Okay,
but come back to the issue. What did you want to ask me about abortion? Let's go back to abortion anyway.
Well, I just like I said, I was I don't understand, like, the people that are pro-life. They care about the womb, but when they're out, like I said, those programs, they're taking away from those kids, because most of those kids that are going to be aborted are coming from horrible parents. Either the dad's not there.
So then why don't you give them up for adoption, and so wealthy people can adopt them?
Okay, I was in prison when I was 19, and I met a lot of people in there who grew up on in foster care and all those places.
I didn't say foster care, I said adoption. Foster care, I know it's a corrupt system, but you're only making my case. The system is corrupt. The system produces destruction. The system is set up to promote decadence. I didn't say foster system. I know people in foster system who are abused. What I'm saying is give them up to adoptive parents, parents who want to adopt them.
Okay, but if there was so many people that were adopting, then we wouldn't have these programs like foster care.
You know, actually, you know why you have it? Because the adoption makes it almost impossible for you to adopt a child because of all the red tape that someone has to go through and the high cost. Why then put these restrictions on adoption? Why not make adoption very accessible to qualified, healthy parents instead of making them jump through red tapes and also pay exorbitant amounts of money to adopt a child?
I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing with that.
But who's creating these systems? The very people that you voted in.
They're putting the red tape up?
Yes. It's your legislators that are creating such a wicked, evil system, a system that's perpetuating destruction, decadence, and people born in bondage. In fact, let's go with Planned Parenthood. Who started Planned Parenthood and why?
I don't know. I don't know much about Planned Parenthood.
The Planned Parenthood, which is the supposedly the healthcare provider for women, you know, which is the #1 abortion mill, was started by a woman whose own reported words was to build Planned Parenthoods in inner cities in order to decrease the Black and Hispanic community, to try to abort as many Black and Hispanic children to bring down the Black and Hispanic population.
But isn't there just as many Caucasians getting aborted as Black and whites?
Of course, but that was not her plan. Notice what you did. I like how you just did a Muslim tactic. I know white people take advantage of the system. I'm talking about the founder. Why did she, what was her design? What was her goal? To create Planned Parenthoods to try to bring down the Black and Hispanic population.
Like I said, I don't know much about Planned Parenthood. I know that they have.
Are you okay with that, though?
What's that?
Are you okay with that?
No, I'm not. Like I said,
hold on, but you're feeding
with this subject.
You're feeding into a system that was designed to destroy the Black and Hispanic population.
Okay, I guess I got to do a little more research.
Yeah, so why don't you do me a favor, brother? I'm not trying to be harsh with you.
No, that's fine.
I want you to go study who started Planned Parenthood and why, and then I want you to do a little more studying on the welfare system. Has it worked? Then you're going to better understand and be in a better position to see why someone like Trump wanted to slowly remove it. Not overnight. That's not what he's going to do. He wanted to set laws in motion so that in time, people who are on welfare will be people who really qualify for welfare, not healthy teenagers or healthy young adults who are too lazy to go work, because why should they work? They're just going to suck the life out of the welfare system. That's what Trump was intending to do. And I'm not pro-Trump, by the way. Anyway, brother, good night, brother. God bless you. Come back to me when you've done your research, all right?
God bless you too, Sam.
Take care. Bye-bye. The hypocrisy of these people. You saw the hypocrisy, guys? And by the way, I don't want to get into politics. I'm not pro-Trump, pro-Biden. I'm pro-Jesus. And anyone who legislates in a manner that glorifies Christ, who will get my vote. But you saw, he said, no, I'm not trying to attack Trump. And that's exactly what he did. You guys caught it, right?